Hi, and welcome to One Credit Chats, a podcast where I sit down and have conversations with people about shoot-'em-up games. My name is Daniel, but online you'll find me under the name Looking for Pants. Over there I have a little YouTube series called I Want a Shmup, where I'm trying to beat one game from every rank of the STG wiki rank list, starting from the bottom. Today I'm talking to Bammed, an expert shmup player who, among other accomplishments, is one of the best Dangun Feveron players outside of Japan. This interview will sound a little weird, and that's because it was actually a chat conversation on Discord, so I recorded my half of the conversation separately, and Bammed is represented here by an AI voice. The AI isn't perfect, so please excuse any weird pronunciation that makes it into the final recording. And that's the end of my preamble. To the interview! First of all, how do I say your name? Is it Bammed? Bammed?
It's just Bammed.
Thanks. So when did you first start playing shmups?
The first shmup I can recall playing was a flash game called Reactance 2, which was around 2013, but I was bad at it, so I wouldn't try to beat it until like mid-2018. 26th October 2018 was when I got into Touhou, specifically with Lotus Land Story, the 4th entry.
Wow, that's amazing that you remember the specific day.
It's a pretty important day to me. My friend was telling me about the series, and he mentioned it was bullet hell, which intrigued me.
How was it when you first got into Touhou? Those games are pretty tough for me.
Well, when I played Reactance 2 again, it only took me 2 days to beat all the levels, no damage. So here I was thinking Touhou wouldn't be that hard. It took me 2 weeks to 1cc the third game in the series, and over a month to 1cc Lotus Land Story.
I haven't played any of the PC 98 games. Do those ones have difficulty levels? And if so, were you playing on normal to start with?
Yeah, they've all got 4 difficulty modes, and I started with normal. At the time, I didn't know how to save state, and the PC 98 games lack stage practice. I also never used continues to see what the later stages were like either.
Has your approach to practicing 1cc's changed since then?
Well, initially my approach was just spamming credits, but then I finally learned how to save state in like mid-2020. I don't think I had a specific approach though, until with DOJ in mid-2021. I'd just tackle stages one at a time and try to no-miss them. When I play a new shmup, I usually practice for a couple months without doing any credits, and then when I feel ready, that's when I spam credits.
Interesting. But why not start with the credit spam first?
Well, at least in my experience, it's not super useful to do credits without doing a ton of practice beforehand. I'd rather play smart than try to brute force. Also, back then, I hated doing credits because they'd make me nervous. While in practice, there wasn't much pressure and I could freely experiment.
Oh, maybe I misunderstood. When you said spamming credits, do you mean 1cc attempts or spamming credits with continues?
1cc attempts.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, they make me nervous too. I've been playing Gradius lately and my save state attempts are looking pretty good, but I keep choking on stage 4 on my 1cc attempts.
Yeah, the only way to combat nerves is to keep getting there. I eventually sort of figured out how to deal with nerves, and that's by trying to beat stages twice in a row, which would simulate the nerves I'd get from being on pace and would give me a better idea of my actual consistency.
That's a good idea. I'll have to try that later. So it sounds like you started with Touhou and then moved into cave games. How would you compare the two?
Touhou is very different from other shmups, because Touhou is easy in terms of the routing and memorization required. But it's also a lot more random, so the dodging is way harder. It also gives way more resources than most other shmups. If you look at games like Thunder Dragon 2, they only have 2 lives and no extends. I like to say that Touhou makes you dodge bullets, but other shmups make you dodge dodging.
Yeah, I like that take. I noticed you got a seriously impressive score in Dangun Feveron recently. Do you play Touhou games for score too?
Dangun is the only game I like scoring. I am very picky when it comes to scoring systems. I don't like loops or milking, which unfortunately Touhou and most arcade games have, and Dangun was one of the few to not have either. It also heavily rewarded survival, which was convenient for me.
Can you tell me a little bit about the scoring system in Dangun? How does it differ from DOJ, for instance?
The biggest difference is probably the chaining. In Doge, you have to kill enemies not too slowly nor too quickly to preserve your chain, while in Dangun, As long as none of the discommon escape through the top, your chain remains intact. I much prefer metal chaining over enemy chaining. Personally, it feels pretty bad to me when I can't just shoot whenever I want. Dangun is also a caravan game, so the faster you kill enemies, the more enemies you get. They also drop more discommon when killed faster, so it heavily encourages speed killing. Also helps the game is only like 17 minutes long.
When did you first start playing Dangun?
9th March 2023, less than 2 months after I'd beaten Raiden Fighter's Jet. That game was an inspiration to playing Dangun.
What's the connection there?
After beating DOJ in mid-2022, I took an interest in the subgenre of manic shooters, which, instead of trying to flood you with bullets, they just try to kill you with very fast bullets. Think of Sekio games. In late 2022, I picked up Raiden Fighter's Jet, and after beating it in like a month, I figured I wouldn't have too much trouble with Dangun. Then I was dying in Stage 2.
That sounds tough. How long did that one take you?
I practiced for 3 months, and then it took 3 weeks to get the run. A lot longer than RFJ, but still a lot shorter than DOJ, which I practiced for 9 months and took 3 months of attempts to beat.
I hear shmup players talking about grinds like that, and I still can't imagine. Like right now, a couple of weeks feels like a long time to get a 1cc. How do you stay motivated for long grinds like that? Do you have a practice schedule? Do you play other games on the side?
Well, the answer is to play a game you really like. I eventually realized that I didn't really care that much about beating these games when I had just as much fun simply practicing. In fact, in my Doge run, I actually thought of throwing when I got to Hibachi, because then I wouldn't have a reason to continue playing it ever again.
That would be some serious Zen level stuff.
When I still played DOJ, I played for around 30 to 60 minutes a day. It varied depending on how well the credits were going. If they were going badly, I'd stop early. But I eventually realized that if I was quitting early, then I wouldn't be getting good runs. So I started playing 2 hours a day.
That's serious dedication over a long period. Do you think it's possible to practice too much in a day?
Yeah, I can't play more than 2 hours. I know some insane madmen that try to play like 10 hours a day, but I doubt it's practical. The human brain can only remember so much information. I think it's kind of funny that some people expect super players to be playing all day, but most of us only play for like an hour or two.
It sounds like it's more about consistency than raw hours.
Yay, being consistent is really important. I always play shmups in the morning.
Can you tell me about your routine and setup a little bit?
Well, I value a good sleep schedule, so I go to bed at 11 and wake up at 7, and then about half an hour later, I just play for 2 hours straight. I don't really have much of a setup. It's just my laptop on a table.
You play everything on keyboard?
Yeah, I play keyboard. Most people who begin with Touhou will probably remain keyboard players.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So you're clearly dedicated, you practice a lot, and you stick to a schedule. What motivates you to do it?
I just like the games which motivate me to improve. And it's also cool to share replays. When I first played Touhou, I had no idea where I'd be with this genre in the next 6 years. All I really cared about was just having fun and to keep playing.
That's awesome. But since you're scoring so well as you go, do you submit your scores anywhere?
I submit my scores to the video index in Shmups Wiki.
Oh, interesting. I didn't actually know that you could do that. I asked Plasmo about submitting directly to the wiki earlier, and it sounded like there wasn't really a system in place for it.
Yeah, anyone can just add their replay.
Okay, I must have misunderstood him. Are you aware that your Dangun score beats the record on the Shmups forums and the Restart Syndrome leaderboards?
Yeah. I don't really care about Restart Syndrome or the forum. Not sure what Mariskin's definition of community record is, but I assume it's anyone that engages with either.
Are you going to keep trying for the world record?
Definitely not. The most I could maybe get is a high 14.5, which is still 300k away from world record. It'd be like being 2 seconds behind the Super Mario Bros. Speedrun world record.
Oh, okay. Is there a specific strat or trick necessary to make the difference, or is it just overall optimization?
There were only 2 strats that I didn't do in my personal best. The Doppler strat in stage 4, which is like 30k, and the no despawn strat in stage 3, which is like 50k. My sum of best is currently 14.7, and I have no idea how to get another 200k.
Are there public videos of any higher scoring Yu Otaro runs that you know of?
AK has like a 14.58, and Clover YMN has 14.62. Public replays, I mean. YMN held the previous world record of 14.7, which unfortunately lacks a replay, and so does the current world record.
How do you feel about the current way that record tracking works for shmup games?
I think Touhou is currently doing it best because the games have actual replays, and there are entire sites dedicated to Touhou replays, like Lunarcast and Royal Flare. But at the same time, I can't really blame the Japanese for not sharing replays, because to them, we're just a bunch of randos asking for proof. At least to them, knowing that it happened in an arcade is good enough. Also, Japan is tight when it comes to copyright.
Yeah, I have no doubt that the JHA scores are valid, but I really wish there was a high score equivalent of a site like speedrun.com or something that made it a little bit less of a headache to aggregate scores from all over the place.
Mark did try to get shmup scores on speedrun.com, but it was rejected.
I heard that, yeah. Bummer.
I do think in some ways we've kind of got it better than speedrunning, though. Because at least to me, it seems like if you get a world record there, you have to go through like 1,000 steps of verification. Has to be streamed live with face cam and input display, and also make sure to send your blood test.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I won't keep you much longer. Before you go, do you have any current goals that you're working on?
I initially thought 14.5 would be out of reach, but it actually seems pretty doable. I don't really feel like going for it right now, though, so maybe I'll go for it in like another half a year. Leith said he might play Dangun again, and he used to be the previous record holder, so if he manages to beat my record, that would incentivize me to go back to runs. Outside of shmups, I'm trying to get S rank in all 4 survival rounds of Streets of Rage Remake. Currently coping and malding over round 2, where I was 5k away from S rank. I would also like to get a Mania Deathless 1cc someday.
I look forward to following that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Is there anything that you'd like to shout out or share with people?
One tip, always reset. I've only ever cleared Dangun 4 times and they're all no-miss full chain. I don't really care much about clearing if it's not the run, which is a very different mentality from Touhou players who like to get a bunch of low-miss runs instead of going straight for lunatic no-miss no-bomb. I also usually don't play any side games or break games or whatever when grinding a shmup. Not even other shmups. And even when I do, it's usually a meme challenge like getting Yumeko no miss no bomb in Mystic Square with Yuka. I would also like to shout out Qlex, and Peg. Qlex for getting 13 million live in SGDQ, and Peg for being the second to get an Uataro no miss full chain.
Is that in Peg's 13.9 million video?
Yeah, second in the West, I mean.
Cool, I'll check it out. Great, and thanks so much. I learned a lot. Have a good one.
Thanks.
And that's it for this time. Next time, I'm interviewing Rastan78 about how he became the Western world record holder for Darius Gaiden. That one was recorded live, so no weird AI pronunciation. And hey, if you're a shoot-'em-up player, a collector, or enthusiast and you'd like to chat about shmups with me, just drop a comment on one of my videos and we can get in touch. I'll warn you that it may take me a long time to actually edit and post the video, as Bammed and Rastan can both attest to, but I kind of cycle through different projects, but I promise that they don't leave the to-do list and I will get to them eventually. And I really do love talking about these games with people, so I'd love to hear what you have to say. Until then, take care.